Holy shit! There were blanks in that gun.
I didn't even point the gun at him.
Holy shit!
Maybe he had a heart attack.
Holy shit!
Animal House launched 1,000 toga parties, but the real party behind the cameras was deadlier than any food fight. John Belushi's spiral began here, careers were sabotaged by success, and the college that inspired it all, they tried to destroy the evidence. These are 10 shocking secrets about Animal House. And the bonus? The real fraternity brothers wanted blood. Thank you, sir. May I have another?
Thank you, sir. May I have another?
Because this Hollywood hazing gets brutal fast. 1. John Belushi's cocaine problem started here. Here's what they never told you about John Belushi's transformation from lovable slob to Hollywood tragedy. The comedian's legendary appetite for destruction wasn't just acting. It was the beginning of an addiction that would kill him within 4 years. Belushi's famous food fight scene required dozens of takes because he was already using cocaine to maintain his manic energy levels. Cast members watched in horror as his behavior became increasingly erratic and dangerous. What shocked the industry most? Belushi's iconic Bluto character was essentially him playing an exaggerated version of his own self-destructive tendencies. The physical comedy that made audiences laugh was actually Belushi hurting himself for real, using pain as fuel for his performance. Directors encouraged his reckless behavior because it generated authentic reactions from other actors. The devastating truth? Animal House didn't just launch Belushi's career. It introduced him to the Hollywood party culture that would ultimately destroy him. The Toga Party never ended, and it became his funeral shroud. 2. The college tried to erase their shame forever. Nobody knew that the University of Oregon spent decades trying to bury their connection to Animal House's debauchery. School administrators were horrified when the film became a cultural phenomenon, realizing they'd allowed their campus to be associated with behavior that contradicted everything they claimed to represent. The university launched a secret campaign to minimize their involvement, removing references from official materials and discouraging faculty from discussing the production. What the institution didn't expect, the film's popularity made their denial look hypocritical and ridiculous. Students embraced the movie's anarchic spirit, organizing underground screenings and toga parties that drove administrators to desperation. The devastating truth? The university's attempt to distance themselves from Animal House only reinforced the film's central message about the hypocrisy of authority figures. Their shame became a running joke among students who realized their supposedly dignified institution had sold its soul for a Hollywood paycheck, then tried to pretend it never happened. 3. Tim Matheson's leading man dreams were destroyed. Here's the shocking truth about how Animal House sabotaged Tim Matheson's serious acting ambitions. The handsome actor playing Eric Otter Stratton was positioned to become the next Robert Redford, but his association with the raunchy comedy typecast him as a lightweight frat boy forever. Matheson watched helplessly as dramatic roles disappeared and casting directors couldn't see past his party animal persona. The irony was devastating. His charming, sophisticated performance was exactly what should have elevated him to leading man status. What nobody knew. Matheson later admitted he regretted taking the role, calling it a career-defining mistake that trapped him in television rather than launching him into movie stardom. The devastating truth? His smooth-talking otter was so memorable that Hollywood couldn't imagine him as anything else. The character that was supposed to showcase his range actually limited it forever. Matheson had acted himself out of the A-list before he ever really got there, becoming a cautionary tale about the dangers of comedic success. 4. Karen Allen's innocence was calculated manipulation. Here's what they never told you about Karen Allen's disturbing introduction to Hollywood's darker side. The young actress playing Katie was deliberately cast for her genuine naivety, which directors plan to exploit for authentic reactions to the film's increasingly crude situations. Allen discovered too late that her character's romantic scenes were designed to make her uncomfortable, with male co-stars encouraged to push boundaries during takes. What shocked the industry most? Allen's later revelation that she felt manipulated and exploited by older, more experienced actors who treated her like a toy rather than a colleague. The sweet college girlfriend audiences loved was actually an actress being psychologically abused by people she trusted. Her natural, unguarded performance came from genuine confusion and discomfort that she didn't realize was being captured on film. The devastating truth, Alan's breakthrough role came at the cost of her emotional well-being, introducing her to an industry that saw young women as disposable entertainment, rather than human beings deserving respect. 5. The real fraternity brothers wanted revenge. Nobody knew that the actual Delta Tau Chi members were planning to destroy the filmmakers who had stolen and distorted their stories. The real fraternity brothers felt betrayed when their college experiences were transformed into crude comedy that made them look like animals instead of the accomplished professionals they'd become. Legal threats flew as former members discovered their actual pranks, and relationships had been adapted without permission. What the lawyers didn't expect? The statute of limitations had run out on most potential lawsuits, leaving the real-life inspirations powerless to stop their reputations from being permanently associated with fictional debauchery. The devastating truth? Many of the real Delta members were successful doctors, lawyers, and businessmen whose careers were damaged by association with characters they considered offensive caricatures. Their attempts to distance themselves from the film only drew more attention to the connection. The men who had inspired a comedy classic found themselves trapped by its success, unable to escape characters that bore their faces but not their souls. 6. John Vernon's villain was too real. Here's the shocking truth about John Vernon's terrifyingly authentic performance as Dean Wormer. The veteran actor's portrayal of academic authoritarianism was so convincing because he was drawing from real experiences of abuse and psychological manipulation he'd witnessed in educational institutions. Vernon had attended military school where he'd seen students broken by sadistic authority figures, and he channeled that trauma into his performance. What nobody knew? Vernon's famous fat, drunk, and stupid speech wasn't just comedy. It was a word-for-word recreation of actual verbal abuse he'd experienced as a young man. The devastating truth? Vernon later admitted that playing Dean Wormer allowed him to exorcise demons from his own past, but it also required him to access dark memories that haunted him for years afterward. His chilling performance came from a place of genuine pain and rage that audiences mistook for brilliant acting. The villain was real because the trauma that created him was real. 7. The food fight scene nearly killed someone. Here's what they never told you about the chaos behind Animal House's most famous sequence. The massive cafeteria food fight wasn't choreographed comedy. It was barely controlled mayhem that resulted in serious injuries covered up by the production. Multiple extras were hospitalized with concussions, lacerations, and food poisoning from the rotten ingredients used for visual effect. What shocked the industry most? John Belushi's seemingly effortless destruction was actually him having a cocaine-fueled breakdown that endangered everyone around him. The flying food wasn't just props. It included actual rocks and hard objects that caused real damage to cast and crew. Insurance investigators later discovered that safety protocols had been completely ignored in favor of capturing authentic chaos. The devastating truth? The scene that launched 1,000 food fights was actually an assault disguised as entertainment, with real people getting genuinely hurt for the sake of a few laughs. The production had crossed the line from comedy into cruelty, and nobody cared as long as the cameras kept rolling. 8. Donald Sutherland's pot scene corrupted young actors. Nobody knew that Donald Sutherland's cannabis-smoking professor was introducing real drugs to inexperienced young actors during filming. The veteran actor's method approach to the role included sharing actual marijuana with cast members who had never experimented with illegal substances. What started as character research became a gateway to more serious drug use for several performers. The devastating truth? Sutherland later admitted he felt responsible for corrupting young people who looked up to him as a mentor and role model. His influence extended beyond the classroom scenes into real-life situations where impressionable actors followed his lead into increasingly dangerous territory. The ironic professor who preached about expanding consciousness was actually introducing students to substances that would narrow their futures. Several cast members struggled with addiction issues that could be traced back to their first experiences on the Animal House set, making Sutherland's fictional educator a real-life cautionary tale about the responsibility that comes with influence. 9. The Toga Party inspired real campus violence. Here's the devastating truth about Animal House's most dangerous legacy. The film's famous Toga Party scene inspired thousands of copycat events on college campuses across America, many of which ended in serious injuries, sexual assaults, and even deaths that were covered up by university administrations. What nobody anticipated, the movie's portrayal of consequence-free partying gave students permission to engage in increasingly reckless behavior, believing that real life would be as forgiving as Hollywood comedy. Campus police reports from the late 1970s and early 1980s show a dramatic spike in alcohol poisoning cases, property damage, and violent incidents directly linked to Animal House themed parties. The devastating truth? The film that was supposed to celebrate harmless college fun had actually provided a blueprint for dangerous behavior that destroyed lives and futures. University administrators quietly banned toga parties and Animal House screenings, but the damage was already done. A generation of students had learned that destruction and debauchery were not just acceptable but admirable, leading to a campus culture that valued chaos over education. 10. The writers stole everything and called it original. Here's the shocking truth that nobody talks about. Animal House wasn't original comedy. It was systematic theft of real people's stories without permission or compensation. Writers Douglas Kenney and Chris Miller had attended Dartmouth College, where they witnessed and participated in the exact events depicted in the film. They simply changed names and locations while keeping every detail of actual incidents that had affected real people's lives. What the victims didn't realize? Their most embarrassing and private moments had been transformed into entertainment that would follow them forever. Former Dartmouth students discovered their college experiences had been sold to Hollywood without their knowledge or consent. The devastating truth? Many of the film's most outrageous scenes were documentaries disguised as fiction, with real people's reputations destroyed for the sake of someone else's profit. The writers had committed literary grave robbing, stealing the past and selling it as their own creative work, while the original participants were left to deal with the consequences of their youthful indiscretions being broadcast to the world. Bonus fact, John Landis knew Belushi was dying. Here's what they never told you about director John Landis's guilty secret. The filmmaker recognized the signs of John Belushi's self-destructive spiral during production, but chose to exploit it rather than intervene. Landis later admitted he knew Belushi's behavior was dangerous and potentially fatal, but the comedian's manic energy was so perfect for the character that he encouraged the very habits that would kill him. The devastating truth? Landis prioritized his film's success over his star's survival, making him complicit in one of Hollywood's most preventable tragedies. The director who launched Belushi's career also accelerated his death. College looked like pure fun in 1978, but Animal House's reality was deadlier than any dean's punishment. Want more shocking movie secrets that'll make you question everything? Hit subscribe and ring that bell. This education gets darker.